Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fandom / Screen Junkies review of The Lion King, 2019's version of The Lion King. We now have to start dating movies with when they came out because we're getting so many remakes. I'm Dan Murrell. Joining me, Danielle Radford.
Hello, it's me, Danielle Radford.
Thank you for reviewing this movie with me, Danielle.
Thank you so much for having me.
The review embargo has just dropped, so you may have seen people tweeting about it because you can do that, but the full reviews are now available. So let's jump right in, Danielle. Basic thoughts, overall thoughts, what'd you think?
Okay, so first of all, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great because I think The Lion King is great. Mm-hmm. The Lion King is a great movie. I think that if you liked The Lion King, there's a good chance you're going to like this because it's the same movie.
Yeah.
It's the same movie. It's fuzzier. It looks great, and I can get more into the way it looks. Yeah, the way it looks visually later, but it's... You know, it's like slapping a new coat of paint on the car and getting it reupholstered. Mm-hmm. It looks different, but the engine's still the same.
Yeah, I'm a little different from you there. This one kind of fell flat for me.
Whoa. Mm-hmm.
And I love The Lion King. I love the original movie, and really, it feels like Jon Favreau presented doing the first 5 minutes, basically the pre-Lion King title card part of this movie to Disney, and they were like, "It's a go picture," because it looks incredible.
It does.
It is shot for shot the same exact thing as
most of this movie is,
most of this movie is, but it looks incredible.
Yeah.
And so going into it, I'm like, okay, that looks amazing, and the movie does look amazing, but I think it is lesser. I think it's lesser. I feel like the stuff in this movie, some of it is as good as The Lion King, but I thought a lot of it was not anywhere close to that. A lot of the vocal performances for me felt flat. I did not get a lot of depth from these characters, and I don't just mean in comparison to X person from The Lion King. I just mean in general, because I tried to not. I mean, I cannot Eternal Sunshine Lion King out of my head.
No,
I cannot do it.
No,
but I also in my head was trying to say, all right, put Jeremy Irons aside. Put him out of your head and just what do you and I still am just like it just didn't. It felt like you recruited celebrities to do voices for a Lion King remake, but no one had a really solid take on, okay, but what am I doing with this character other than reciting 75% of the dialogue from the movie that came out in 1994.
Right. Now, for me, I do feel like obviously everyone's going to talk about how great Timon and Pumbaa were. And they had great chemistry. Mm-hmm. They were already written well. Some of the jokes did wind up being changed. Just things were modernized. I thought that was fantastic. Mm-hmm. Those worked. For me, my standout, and I haven't heard too many people talk about this, Florence Kazuma as Shenzi was amazing. I looked through her IMDb. I haven't seen her do as much voice work, but I think that's going to change.
For what we got of that character, which was brief, not much, should have been more.
Should have been more.
But I agree, that was a standout performance. I will also agree, Timon and Pumbaa, particularly Billy Eichner.
Oh, Billy Eichner killed it.
Yeah, he was great. And I think the reason that Timon and Pumbaa worked in this movie and where the other ones didn't is those are the two characters that they seem to, maybe because they got comedians or comedic actors to fill those roles, they felt comfortable with letting those guys work off of the blueprint of the original, but also say, but make it your own. And I think that's what I was missing from most of the performances in this film. There was none of that, but make it your own. It was just like, say these lines. And I mentioned before, we were talking before, I also want to say these names because Irene Mecchi, Jonathon Roberts, and Linda Wolverton. Those are the screenwriters of the original 1994 Lion King, and I did this with Aladdin as well. The screenplay for this film is credited to Jeff Nathanson, and I'm sure that Jeff Nathanson did a lot of work on this movie, and I don't want to take away from the work that he did.
Adaptations are still hard.
Adaptations are difficult, and Jeff Nathanson, as well as everyone else in this movie, I'm sure put a lot in. However, because of the insane and archaic and crazy rules of the Animation Guild, those three writers, Irene Mecchi, Jonathon Roberts, Linda Wolverton, are not credited as screenwriters on this film, and they should be, because 75% of the screenplay from this film is the screenplay from the original Lion King.
I don't even know if it's 75%.
Maybe
it
80
could be
or
closer
more.
to 80 to 85 or 90. It is, again, that's why I say if you like The Lion King, it is the same movie. And for some people, I know they were hoping that there would be something a little extra added. There was slightly more Nala because, again, you have Beyonce in the booth. You're not going to not use all the Beyonce that you can get. But yeah, it's the same movie. but fuzzier and more National Geographic like. And for some people, that's the part that they are not gonna like, because they are more realistic. The faces aren't necessarily gonna be as expressive. And one of my things I will say, as much as I enjoyed this movie, because, and I'm going to get real nerd for a second, because I am trained in voice and speech and all of those things, I pay very particular attention to tongue placement, things like that. Look, Zazu's just not going to be able to say a lot of those words. And the way that they animate the mouths is they're animated to be true to how the animal's mouth works, but that animal's mouth doesn't work the way a human's mouth does. And so watching something that realistic with a beak, using, the th sound and other things, that did become distracting to me.
It is a photoreal movie. It's an animated movie.
Yeah.
It is animated. It's animated to look photoreal, but it is animated. But the thing that I was going to mention is, I live in a household where there are particular sensitivities to this and to the photoreality of this movie. Also, is that The Lion King in the animated form is a very distressing movie as far as character peril.
Yes.
I do feel like for people that have sensitivities to animals in danger, animals in peril, this movie does not soften that or shy away from it. I actually would not recommend this movie for very young children, because as perilous as the animated version is, it is as perilous but photorealistically here. Yeah. And I think that may be even more distressing for certain segments of the audience.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to mention that as well. That is very striking, and I feel like it's hard because I want to say without giving too much away, but you've seen this movie. Yeah. There are certain disturbing scenes that are repeated where it's did not need to be, because the first time, you repeat them because little brains maybe don't forget things. Little brains aren't going to forget some of those scenes. Yeah. Little brains will internalize those. So
let's talk about little brains, because this will be for a certain generation, probably their first exposure to The Lion King. And I think you have to take that perspective on board. I don't think it's like, in my head, it's just like, well, do you think one generation's Aladdin, the new one, is the same as the Robin Williams Aladdin? I would say they're similar. Right. They're similar experiences. I don't think this is a similar experience. I think that they're so tied into photorealism that the whole movie is more grounded. That didn't work for me. I think really the line of demarcation for a lot of people is going to be when you get to Be Prepared. Yeah. If you get to this movie's take on Be Prepared and you're like, I am on board with this take. Yes. I think you'll probably be all right for the rest of the movie.
It is different, very different.
If you get to Be Prepared and you're like, I'm missing something here. I'm missing an energy here. I missed it a little bit in I Just Can't Wait to Be King. But when we got to Be Prepared, I'm like, all right, this was a key point that it sticks in my brain from the original that I feel like is sort of glossed over because the movie can't get that big because they're so tied to being photoreal, that everything else kind of is on that level. And I think that's why it didn't click for me was, I know it's a different take, but when you're staying so faithful and you're using the same words, but you're keeping it at a much more grounded level of reality, that's why it just fell flat, because it's a very operatic story. It's based on Hamlet.
Right. And you're not getting, and particularly, and I appreciate, and I liked that version of Scar a lot, but there isn't as much of that big, you said theatrical, operatic. It's not that kind of performance, which they could have done. He's a Broadway actor. He opened Kinky Boots. He's got it in him. Yeah. So that was someone's choice to tell him to keep it like a little lower, to make it simmer.
And that's an okay take to have, but I kind of feel like if you're going to go with that take, but you can't do this, ditch the songs and tell the story in a very grounded way. But then you can't do that because people will revolt and they'll say that's not The Lion King. And I've said this before, like, I think this is the problem that you have when you're adapting these beloved Disney classics, is something like The Jungle Book, which I loved. I thought that Favreau's The Jungle Book added to the original. It was able to shy away a little bit from the songs because they aren't Oscar winners. Right. I mean, I know everybody likes I Want to Be Like You, but Christopher Walken can kind of hoot out a few bars of that and people are satisfied. Same with Bare Necessities. With this one, it's like you had to have them as they were, exactly where they were in the movie. But I also think that those two takes just didn't blend for me.
And I will say I genuinely enjoyed all of the songs. I think as much as I love Can You Feel the Love Tonight, I think it is a mistake to let Beyonce lap him as much as she did.
Yeah.
That I get, you have to, because she's Beyonce and Donald can match her, but very clearly the edict was, nah, this is going to be, let's have Beyonce have this one.
Yeah.
Because I know that Donald Glover is a very talented singer. He's a very talented vocalist. Beyonce is Beyonce. And so let her have as many runs as she wants. And I don't know if that was necessarily the right decision. I still love the song, but to me, it made it seem like Donald just wasn't as good, you know, whereas I think that they could have gave him a little bit more parody.
Yeah. Well, what are some things that you liked in the movie that we haven't talked about? Because I don't want it to all be things about I didn't like. What are some things you enjoyed about the film?
Well, I thought that the characters had very expressive eyes. And that was something that I don't think I did the review for Dumbo, but something I've talked about when I talk about Dumbo. Their eyes were incredibly expressive. You could get a lot of emotion out of that. And so for me, I think wherein a lot of people are going to be missing the big animated character smiles and, you know, the things that you can do with the faces, because that's how animated characters work, and real faces don't stretch like that on anybody except Jim Carrey. Like, that's... But for me, the eyes really did do the communication, and particularly in Can You Feel the Love Tonight, those lions were giving each other, and I'm sorry to say it, they were giving each other frolic eyes, and that worked.
That's true.
Yeah, and particularly, again, I like the performances. I liked Beyonce a lot. The problem with Beyonce is that she has a very, very, very distinctive speaking voice. And we don't, and a lot of the other people do too, but even like a Seth Rogen, I've been in comedy long enough, I know 20 guys that sound like Seth Rogen. She sounds like Beyonce. She's got Beyonce's Houston accent and everything. And because we're not used to Beyonce doing voiceover, every time Nala comes on screen and starts talking, it's like, hey, Beyonce. How's it going, babe? And you like almost wait for her to start dancing and stuff. And it was a great performance. That's not her fault, you know?
Right.
But
she's very vocal. It's like casting Jack Nicholson in a voiceover role. It's
yes.
Like, it's Jack Nicholson.
It's
you know,
Jack
everyone
Nicholson.
knows it's Jack Nicholson. It's hard to believe necessarily that that's not Jack Nicholson.
And she was, I will say, when you talk about people who are taking it down a bit, Beyonce was playing it up. Beyonce was playing it like, I know I'm supposed to be queen.
Yeah.
That was the character Nala was. And so in that way, but again, that she's a big performer. That's what she does. So she brought a lot of energy and life into that character, which I appreciated.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of wrapping up for me, I feel like I said, it's on a technical level. I mean, Jon Favreau is doing some really great groundbreaking stuff. It looks incredible. It looks like a nature documentary, but with some songs.
That's exactly what I said online, and people were like, I don't know if I like that. I'm like, well,
I don't know if you will either, if I'm being honest. I'm
just really glad that those grubs didn't start singing, because it was getting disturbing to watch them actually eat little living creatures. Every time it would happen, I'd be like, oh, thank God that bug doesn't have a personality.
Yeah, I know. Like, who talks into... That's a whole other conversation. what animals have sentience and which ones don't. Was there a whole grub musical happening underneath that
Yeah,
log?
before they opened the log up, and then bye, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just putting it in context of these other Disney remakes, with Aladdin, which came out earlier this summer, I felt like, all right, even if you are slavish to the original, I thought that film changed it up enough. Had Will Smith, who brought a different energy to that character of the genie. They did some fun things with the musical numbers and the visuals. I thought, like, even if you're slavish to Aladdin, I think this one does enough and stands enough on its own that I would recommend it, even apart from the original film. I thought it stood alone. I enjoyed that movie. This one, I can't honestly say the same thing about. I don't think it adds anything to The Lion King. I think if you want to see the movie reenacted with live action looking animation, renditions of the songs that I think are not often on par with the originals. Sometimes they match. It's nice to hear Beyonce sing. She has a lovely voice.
Turns out she's very good at singing.
Then I would say, you know, maybe check it out. But, you know, it didn't really do much for me. Even on its own, if I take the 94 one out, it's 30 minutes longer than the original film. It felt 30 minutes longer to me. I thought it dragged a little bit, even though I knew the story and I knew where it was going. Maybe somebody that doesn't know that, it would be different for them. Like I said, I cannot pretend like or erase the original from my brain. I don't demand it that it slavishly respect and adhere to the original, but I don't think it really did anything remarkable that added anything unique. It was kind of a miss for me. if I'm being honest. And like I said, the embargo just dropped. I appear to be in the minority based on people that have tweeted and everything before this. But this is more for me in the vein of Beauty and the Beast, which was another remake that I really did not enjoy, even on its own terms. And The Lion King's kind of there for me. Not totally irredeemable, but not really something that I would recommend unless you just want to go see the movie recreated.
Yeah, if you love The Lion King, like if you're a huge fan of The Lion King and you just want to see it with a new coat of paint, you just want to see it, and those cubs are adorable, you guys. Like, those cubs are amazing. It really does look great. If you want to go and you want to celebrate that, I think there are some great performances and some really good standouts. I enjoyed the movie, but I'm not going to say it's anything different. It's Lion King. So if you don't want to pay money to go see Lion King again, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, that's our thoughts on The Lion King. It opens next week. Next week, while we're all going to be at Comic-Con, I think.
Yeah.
The Lion King is going to be in theaters. What did you think after you see the movie? Let us know down in the comments below. We'd always like to hear what you think. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned here on Fandom Entertainment. We'll be bringing you our daily Screen Junkies universe. We'll bring you more reviews of the movies as they're hitting theaters and so much more. Danielle Radford, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Dan Murrell.
And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.